They called her a supply clerk. Marcus Chen laughed, waved his clipboard, and told her to stay out of the way. She said nothing, just waited, just listened. But when the drones breached the perimeter, it wasn't protocol that saved them, it was Lena. They thought she was just inventory. What they didn't know, she was Black Falcon, and her bullet would humble every word they ever said. Stick around because Marcus Chen's about to learn the price of pride. We'd love to know where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Comment below and subscribe to stay updated. Marcus Chen stalked through the supply depot's narrow aisles, his clipboard a shield of authority, his 15 years of service a crown he wore with unwavering pride. The morning light, filtering through the high windows, caught his supervisor's badge, making it gleam as he polished it, a ritual that always steadied his nerves. But today, something was off. That woman, Lena Rourke, was methodically checking an old M40 sniper rifle, her movements too precise, too practiced for a mere inventory clerk. "That museum piece won't help us," Marcus announced loudly, his voice carrying across the depot. Several junior clerks looked up from their work smartphones already sliding from pockets. The morning alert about approaching drones had everyone on edge, but Marcus knew every face, every role in this facility. This quiet woman didn't fit his carefully ordered world. Lena's fingers moved across the rifle with disturbing familiarity, checking the scope without acknowledging his presence. The silence made his skin crawl. A distant siren wailed, and Marcus felt his authority slipping. "I've managed this depot for 15 years. He projected, stepping closer, invading her space. "Every weapon, every bullet, every person has to go through me. Who are you really?" The depot's security camera red light blinked steadily, recording as Marcus planted himself between Lena and the weapon rack. "Put that down before you hurt yourself," he commanded, reaching for the rifle. The quiet defiance in her eyes made him falter for a split second. Captain Rivera's voice crackled over the intercom. "All personnel incoming hostile drones. Black Falcon requested at South Tower immediately." Marcus watched in disbelief as Lena smoothly shouldered past him, rifle in hand. "Black Falcon. That's impossible. You're just a supply clerk." A ghost of a smile touched her lips as she headed for the door. "Check your inventory again, Marcus. Some things aren't always what they seem." The video of Marcus's confrontation hit YouTube within minutes. Quiet threat trending as viewers waited to see what would happen next. Marcus gripped his badge tighter, feeling the edges dig into his palm. 15 years of certainty began to crack. Have you ever been so sure of something that you became blind to the truth? Type pride? If you've misjudged someone based on appearances? The distant sound of drone engines grew louder, and Marcus Chen, master of his domain for 15 years, felt his carefully constructed world begin to tremble. Would his authority survive being wrong about Lena Rourke? The answer was racing toward them at supersonic speed. And for the first time in 15 years, Marcus wasn't sure he wanted to know the truth. Marcus Chen stared at his monitor, the glow illuminating his meticulously organized office in the military logistics center. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling slightly, as he dug deeper into Lena Rourke's classified files. The Black Falcon insignia on each document seemed to mock his earlier certainty about her incompetence. 27 confirmed drone takedowns in a single operation. He muttered, his throat tightening. Highest accuracy rating in Black Falcon history. The weight of his service medallion, always proudly displayed on his desk, suddenly felt like lead, but then he found it. The helicopter incident. 3 civilian casualties from a ricocheted bullet during a high-stakes operation. Marcus Chen's lips curved into a vindictive smile as he polished his medallion, a habit that usually brought comfort. "I knew it! Heroes don't hide in supply rooms." His search expanded obsessively. Former colleagues' mission reports, psychological evaluations. each document revealed more of Rourke's extraordinary career, making his chest tighter. Dr. Harrison's latest study on combat PTSD and career transitions caught his eye. Post-traumatic growth often manifests in choosing support roles. He read aloud, his voice wavering. The quiet strength of behind-the-scenes contribution. Marcus Chen's hand clenched around his medallion as he remembered his own mentor, Captain Phillips, teaching him to spot weakness. Trust your instincts, Chen. Broken soldiers never heal. But something felt different now. Wrong. The office door opened, and Lieutenant Cooper entered. Chen, about that supply requisition. He paused, noting the classified files. Still on about Rourke, let it go, man. She's dangerous, Marcus Chen insisted, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. That helicopter incident, you mean when she chose a risky shot to save 30 school children? Cooper's words hit like physical blows. Yeah, real monster there. Alone again. Marcus Chen pulled up the security footage from earlier, watching Rourke's perfect shot against the malfunctioning drones. His medallion slipped from his fingers, clattering against his desk. The sound echoed like judgment. An email notification popped up. His earlier complaint about Rourke had been forwarded to command. The investigation would be starting tomorrow. Marcus Chen's stomach churned as he realized what he'd set in motion. Have you ever rushed to judge someone only to discover you were terrifyingly wrong? He whispered to his reflection in the darkened monitor. Type regret if you've ever let prejudice blind you to someone's true worth. The medallion lay untouched on his desk as Marcus Chen opened another classified file, his certainty crumbling like sand through his fingers. Each document revealed not just Rourke's excellence, but his own deep-seated biases about what a hero should look like, should act like. Studies on combat effectiveness and support roles filled his screen. Logistics personnel with combat experience show 47% higher efficiency rates, one report stated. Marcus Chen's hands shook as he realized how many other quiet heroes he might have wrongly judged. Outside his office window, the sun was setting. In just a few hours, his complaint would trigger an official investigation. Marcus Chen stared at his medallion, no longer seeing a symbol of his judgment, but a reminder of his prejudice. The weight of his mistake pressed down on him like a physical force. Tomorrow, everything would change. And for the first time in his career, Marcus Chen wasn't sure he was on the right side of justice. Marcus Chen's fingers trembled as he sorted through the supply requisition forms, his mind racing with the implications of what he'd just witnessed. Each paper seemed to mock him, filled with Lena Rourke's impeccable documentation of weapon maintenance schedules. The methodical precision of her records painted a picture he had willfully ignored for months. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he recalled the whispers spreading through the base. His campaign to discredit her was backfiring spectacularly. Did you hear about Rourke's combat record? The words from passing officers pierced his office walls like accusations. His prized efficiency reports, once his shield of authority, now felt as flimsy as tissue paper. His hand instinctively reached for his supply clerk badge, the metal cool against his palm. The same badge he'd so proudly polished this morning now seemed to grow heavier with each passing hour. He caught his reflection in his computer screen. Had his face always looked this haunted? The distant whine of approaching drones filtered through his window, and Marcus Chen's stomach churned. His earlier bravado about proper protocol and qualification concerns echoed hollowly in his memory. Each rhythmic thump of the base's warning sirens matched his racing heartbeat. 3 separate commanders had already requested his presence to discuss his recent behavior. His inbox blinked with unread messages, each subject line more demanding than the last. The viral video of his confrontation with Rourke in the armory had already reached headquarters. Quiet Hero was trending with his face prominently featured as the antagonist. Sir. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "General Morrison wants to see you, immediately." Marcus Chen's hands shook as he straightened his uniform. The badge felt like it was burning through his shirt. Walking through the corridors, he noticed how conversation stopped as he passed. The same people who had laughed at his jokes yesterday now turned away, their silence deafening. Through a window, he glimpsed Rourke at the shooting range, her movements fluid and precise. The sight made his earlier accusations taste like ash in his mouth. His phone buzzed. Another notification about the viral video. The comments were brutal. "Watch this supply clerk try to explain combat to a Black Falcon sniper." His carefully constructed world of forms and regulations was crumbling around him. The drone warning sirens grew louder. Marcus Chen stood frozen in the hallway, his badge clutched in his trembling hand, as the magnitude of his misjudgment crashed over him like a tidal wave. He had built his authority on paper trails and procedures, but here was a woman who had written her credentials in combat zones he'd only seen in reports. Forum. Type Pride Falls. If you've ever watched someone's arrogance crumble in real time. His mind raced with the memories of every snide comment, every dismissive gesture he'd thrown her way. Each one now felt like another nail in the coffin of his career. The approaching drone threat wasn't just exposing their vulnerabilities, it was exposing his. Through the base's speakers, a calm voice announced, "All personnel to battle stations. Drone incursion imminent." Marcus Chen watched as others rushed past him with purpose, while he stood paralyzed, his badge now feeling like a brand of shame against his chest. The truth he'd been avoiding hit him with stunning clarity. His power had always been an illusion built on forms and regulations, rather than real courage or competence. As the sirens wailed louder, Marcus Chen realized that his greatest fear wasn't the approaching drones. It was facing the reality of who he truly was. The badge slipped from his numb fingers, clattering to the floor with a sound that seemed to echo his falling status. He left it there, a symbolic surrender to the consequences of his actions, as he walked slowly toward General Morrison's office to face what he knew would be the most difficult briefing of his career. Supply clerk Marcus Chen stood frozen in the observation bunker, his clipboard falling from trembling fingers as the impossible unfolded before him. 3 enemy drones moving in perfect formation approached the perimeter he'd publicly declared indefensible by someone like her. The words he'd spoken at morning briefing now tasted like ash in his mouth. "She won't even try," Marcus Chen had sneered earlier, his voice carrying across the command center. "These quiet ones, they freeze when real pressure hits." But now through the reinforced glass, he watched Lena Rourke settle into position, her movements precise, unhurried. The first crack of the rifle split the air like thunder. Marcus Chen's eyes widened as the bullet ricocheted off the valley wall, exactly as she'd calculated, striking all 3 drones in rapid succession. The resulting explosions painted the sky in brilliant orange debris raining down like metallic confetti. "Holy!" someone whispered, but Marcus Chen barely heard them. His ears were ringing not from the shot, but from the deafening silence of his own shattered prejudices. His security badge, the symbol of his authority that he'd polished so proudly that morning, felt heavy against his chest. The control room erupted in cheers. Phones emerged, recording the aftermath. Quiet Hero started trending within minutes. Marcus Chen watched stomach churning as his earlier rant about unqualified personnel surfaced on social media alongside footage of the legendary shot. Drop 1 in the comments if you've ever witnessed someone destroy their critics with pure skill. The security footage from the morning briefing played on every screen in the facility. Marcus Chen saw himself puffed up with unearned authority, questioning her abilities. Now, 12 hours later, he stood alone in the observation bunker, his face burning as personnel rushed past him to congratulate her. Lena Rourke didn't acknowledge the praise. She simply secured her rifle, logged the engagement, and headed back to the warehouse, leaving Marcus Chen to face the weight of his misjudgment. His hands shook as he unclipped his security badge, the symbol of the authority he'd wielded so carelessly. Commander Hayes appeared beside him. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen, I believe we need to discuss this morning's briefing and your conduct. The words fell like lead in the quiet room. I was wrong, Marcus Chen whispered, his voice cracking. For the first time, he felt the full impact of his actions, how his prejudices had nearly compromised base security. If he'd succeeded in having her reassigned, as he'd been pushing for. The viral hashtag, #GuarkQuietHero, flashed on his phone, accompanied by hundreds of comments condemning his earlier behavior. His empire of small authority crumbled as he watched the video of her shot being shared across military channels worldwide. Share this if you believe true skill speaks louder than empty words. Taunt Quiet Hero. Marcus Chen's security clearance was suspended pending review. As he surrendered his badge, he caught a glimpse of Lena Rourke through the window, already focused on her next task. Her quiet competence a thundering rebuke to every doubt he'd voiced. Sometimes, Commander Hayes said, watching him, the loudest lesson comes from the quietest hero. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen nodded, understanding finally hitting him like that ricocheting bullet. Courage didn't need his approval to exist. It had been there all along, waiting for him to see past his own prejudices. Through bleary eyes, Supply Clerk Marcus Chen stares at his reflection in the polished brass nameplate that had once proclaimed his authority over Warehouse Section B. The same nameplate he'd wielded like a shield of superiority against Lena Rourke, dismissing her quiet competence with sneers and doubts. His fingers traced the engraved letters one last time, remembering how he'd positioned it so prominently on his desk, making sure every visitor saw it. I was so desperate to be seen as important. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen whispers to himself, his voice echoing in the empty warehouse. The viral footage of Lena's impossible shot plays on repeat in his mind. The grace, the precision, the absolute mastery that had saved countless lives. The same skill he'd questioned, mocked, dismissed. Quiet. Hero had trended for days, each notification on his phone a sharp reminder of his arrogance. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen's hands tremble as he approaches Lena's workstation. The morning light streams through the high windows, catching the dust motes dancing in the air, much like the drone debris had scattered after her shot. He places his nameplate on her desk, arranging it carefully. Not prominently as he once would have, but with humility, a token of surrender and acknowledgement. The brass weighs nothing now. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen reflects, touching it one final time. But my pride, that was the real burden. His throat tightens as he remembers every dismissive comment, every rolled eye, every time he'd pulled rank to make her life difficult. The security footage of those moments had surfaced online, each clip a damning testimony to his prejudice. In the distance, a door opens. That familiar soft click he'd once found so irritating. Lena's footsteps approaching with that same quiet confidence he'd mistaken for weakness. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen straightens his uniform, preparing for the hardest moment of his career. I was wrong. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen says, his voice carrying in the vast space. Some heroes don't need spotlights or brass nameplates. They just need respect and the space to serve in their own way. He gestures to the nameplate. This belongs with someone who understands true duty. The warehouse falls silent, save for the gentle hum of the ventilation system. Supply Clerk Marcus Chen feels the weight of transformation, of prejudice, crumbling like the drones Lena had shot down. His journey from arrogant overseer to humbled colleague plays out in his mind, each memory a lesson in the quiet face of true courage. Drop 2 if you've ever misjudged someone's strength, Supply clerk. Marcus Chen takes one last look at his nameplate, now a memorial to misplaced pride. The greatest acts of courage for him, he realizes, hide in the quietest corners of duty. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit we were wrong. Share this moment of transformation if you believe in the power of quiet heroes. Quiet hero. His footsteps echo as he walks away, leaving behind not just a nameplate, but the weight of prejudice and the liberation of truth. In the end, supply clerk Marcus Chen learned that true authority isn't announced by brass nameplates. It's earned through respect, demonstrated through action, and sometimes speaks loudest in silence.